James from Full Pros here. Just wanted to be able to kind of last little thoughts about the Chiefs Chargers game last night to where we lost 27-24. A lot to come from that game, a lot to be positive about the game. Maybe I'm just a guy that likes to look at the positivity of every game and move forward from that point. I'm looking forward to the Jags game. It's kind of a good rebound game. But one thing I kind of to bring up, and I got this article here from the Bleacher Report talking about Brandon Staley, Joe Lombardi's blasted for conservative calls in Chiefs loss. I know Andy did a video about this already, about Joe Lombardi being conservative. But the big thing I want to emphasize on this is, where was Fourth and Staley for this game? And why I'm kind of bringing that up is because there was a point early in the game where we were very close to potentially getting a touchdown. I think we were fourth and short in Kansas City territory, and we elected either to go for a field goal or not really go for the fourth down, which, in my opinion, I'm a big fan of trying to go for it early on in the game. And reason why I'm saying that is because if you made a mistake, you have plenty of time to be able to make up from it. And 3 points is great. I get it, and I understand the opponent that we're doing. But I think with Brandon Staley, he likes to take those chances. And I think there is a little bit of a miss. A lot of people seemed a little bothered by that because he really didn't do that extra type of play call, that kind of analytical type of play call, to where he actually was in a good position to be able to get that first down at that point. So I don't know. My opinion, I'll take 7 points over 3 points, or at least a chance to get 7 points over 3 points any day. It's one of those things that I think that was a little bit unsure about what was going on there, about who this Brandon Staley is. Even to say right here, Big Cat from Barstool says, I did not bet on this Brandon Staley. I want the old Brandon Staley back. And it's an interesting thing because people expect that from Brandon Staley. And in the first game, we only had one fourth down attempt, and we did not convert against the Raiders. And then this one, we had fourth down attempts. We had four fourth down attempts, and we converted them all. Mind you, a fair amount of those are when we really were struggling to try to find a way to be able to keep the game alive and everything. And Herbert, to be honest, even injured, threw a dime to DeAndre Carter and then also a touchdown to end that drive after being injured. For whatever reason, Herbert just stands up real well and comes to the occasion when a fourth down comes around. But the thing about it is I will go back to the early point of this game. He did not go for it on the fourth down and elected to go for a field goal instead. I felt like we should have just tried for that fourth down. That was something that I felt was fitting perfectly in the Brandon Staley, Fourth and Staley mentality. Go for it. Do it. Go for it. I don't know why you wouldn't have done that. And even to say Andy Reid was a little timid in this game too. I think they both were very unsure about what they're expecting from their defenses. I think Brandon Staley might be leaning too hard on his defense. Not saying we don't have a good defense. We have a dramatically better defense than last year. But at the same side, he's becoming a little complacent with that. He's expecting that defense to be able to back him up. So my thing is, I would like to be able to see that old Brandon Staley and take shots early in the game, not later in the game. You don't want to feel like you're trying to find a way to be able to get back into the game and you just have to go for the fourth downs. I think you would want to take shots early in the game and take chances and risks early in the game. Or even right here, Jimmy basically even says, I don't like this bizarro Brandon Staley who punts all the time. It was a lot of punts going on here. Even Daniel Popper basically talked about it here. Play on 3rd and 1, only to punt 4th and 1 in opposing territory. I'm dumbfounded. Some real odd play calls too, which obviously Joe Lombardi, we've chatted quite a bit about that. And that's something that does need to get fixed. Chris Whittingham, Brandon Staley became Vic Fangio in one offseason. Just not being very good about making play calls, not good about time management. Brian here says, we secretly replaced Brandon Staley's fourth down management with Kyle Shanahan's. Let's see if anybody notices. There's just things that just don't seem to make sense. And there's things that I feel Brandon Staley missed a little bit within this game. I don't mind, me personally, I don't mind taking risks. And I don't mind doing that early in the game. I think there was things that were just not Brandon Staley like. I think there's a little bit of a complacency of what he's expecting with this defense. And We have a good defense, obviously. I've repeated that many times. But thing is, though, our choices within the games and doing the fourth downs, I think, need to come back a little bit, especially within a game within the Chiefs. I want to say, I remember when Brandon Staley got hired, he came in first off with a game plan of how to beat the Chiefs, and it was to go on fourth downs. I feel like he got away from that game. So, once again, this is just one game. This is a game that would have been great to be able to get. We had it in our hands, and we ended up getting a little bit more complacent. Joe Lombardi, I think we've talked that to an extent where he is a little too soft at some points. And I think that those are things that do need to wake up. Our third quarter still was bad, and it became complacent. I think that there's things that we can clean up. My thing is on to the next, to the Jaguars. If we don't beat the Jaguars, then the house is on fire. Things need to shift. Things need to change. We need to be able to do better. But I feel I am ready to go to the next game. I do just like to see Fourth and Staley back. So that's my points. That's my ending points for this game. On to the Jags.
All right, guys, Andrew Bobros here. Hey, I wanted to give you an update on Justin Herbert. He has suffered a fracture in his rib cartilage and he's considered day-to-day. That's not good news, guys. We know that. It's unfortunate it happened. I know I've been watching a lot of videos how that was a cheap shot. And look, it's a violent sport. Injuries do happen. Unfortunately, he's our crown jewel. And it's frustrating for us because I want to see him out there playing. If there is a silver lining, it is not an actual fractured rib, which would be even worse. It's rib cartilage. So that's the connecting tissue to the other ribs and your skeletal structure. Look, I've had rib injuries in the past. I do play sports. They are inconvenient. Okay. They are very inconvenient. Now, my concern, though, is it's going to affect his accuracy, right? It's going to affect the ability for him to throw the ball downfield deep, even short passes potentially. It's going to affect a lot of what he can do. And that's a concern, guys. And I will say this, the second half of the game, for whatever reason, I felt like Herbert really just stuck in the pocket a lot. Normally, he tends to like to move around and be a little more mobile, and he wasn't. And I think part of it was because some of the offensive linemen went down. We lost Corey Linsley. Obviously lost Trey Pipkins, obviously. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but Rashawn Slater was actually on the injured list prior to the game, and he played the entire game. So it was really interesting to see that. So the injuries are starting to mount, guys, unfortunately. But this is interesting what Herbert said here. I think we got good news. And he's right, guys. He's right. A fractured rib, an actual fractured rib, is bad. It's very bad. That's a much longer, you'd be out for sure. But rib cartilage is really different. It's really more around comfort, discomfort, how he's feeling, and where he's going to sit. My take on this, guys, is he will most likely play against the Jaguars, but I will say this, they'll definitely have a very limited game plan for him. And by God, the running game better show up. I swear to you that we're going to have to do short plays, get the ball out of his hands fast. He cannot take hits. We got to do some really quick hitters out there. And so anyways, it'll be very interesting to see what happens, but I just wanted to throw this out there on this video, let you guys know exactly what's going on with Justin Herbert, where he's at. Like I said, bad news, silver lining, it could be worse.
Hey, Bull fam. I have a few thoughts about this game. Number one is, it ain't the end of the world that we actually lost this game. Nobody expected this Chargers team to actually go 17-0 through the entire season. That's just fact. A lot of us bros, we actually did think that this game was going to be a 50-50 chance that we were going to win it. And obviously, we just fell short a little bit. Now, the other thing I wanted to say too is this is something that I was actually concerned about going into the season, is that mentality to keep the starter players from playing during the preseason. That is always my concern, is because by not having them play in the preseason, the actual season becomes the real preseason for the starters. And what I mean by that is they don't have actual reps of full speed for play. And so some of that showed in this game that they're falling flat, because the truth is we all know that we have the type of offense and the type of team right now that we should be putting up 40 points a game, but we haven't been doing that. And I know a lot of people are actually crying out and wanting Joe Lombardi's head right now, but I don't think that's actually fair, because I feel like the issue is that we need to make sure that our players get ready for the season in the preseason. That is just my personal opinion. I really feel like, and obviously I know that the danger is that if they get injured in the preseason, then that's just a season-ending injury before the season even starts. And no one wants that, of course. That's a terrible way to start anything. But if you give them at least a good solid drive, or maybe even a quarter for some of them, then I think that they'll be more prepared for this upcoming season than they would. And I was worried that our team was going to come out a little flat, and it feels like they have so far in these first 2 weeks. Yeah, we beat the Raiders, and we basically had the Chiefs. We had them on the ropes, and they came out swinging in the second half. And look where that got us too. And as my brothers just talked about, it's not in our favor right now. However, with this situation, but looking forward to week 3 against the Jaguars. I'm really excited to see what we do there. I hope that the Jaguars aren't going to be too hung up on the fact that we have the situation now, but I think they are going to see a different team out of us with the fact that we lost so bad to the Chiefs. Anyways, that was just my final thoughts. I'm looking forward to the next couple of games, and I'll see you at the home games. And if you're there, come say hello to us. And as always, fam, bolt up, don't punt. Bolt Bros, let's go.